At 26 years old, Nick Campbell, today's guest, gave himself 6 months to chase an idea. He had just £7,000 in savings, no office, no certainty, and a steady diet of hummus and bread to stretch his budget. But he had conviction and he had a spark. He saw a gap in the art world. People wanted to collect meaningful artwork and needed support to do that, but at a more accessible price that was previously being offered. That leap turned into a career. Today, Nick is an art advisor and the founder of Campbell Art Collective. From London, now to Austin, he spent nearly 15 years helping people discover art they connect with that enhances their life. In our conversation, Nick shares how art can orient us. It helps us understand who we are, where we've been, and the places that we belong to. He also talks about the grit it takes to start a business from scratch and why art matters not just for collectors, but for anyone seeking perspective and inspiration in their everyday life. Welcome to The Artist Rendezvous, a podcast celebrating the creative act. My name is Samantha Fotenhauer. I'm your host. Thank you so much for joining us here. Nick Campbell, welcome to The Artist Rendezvous.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm so glad to have you here. So Nick is an art curator, an art collector. I was thinking of you as an art connector today too, in the sense that you really connect the people, public, with artwork. And so first, could you introduce your businesses?
Sure. My name is Nick Campbell. I ultimately I'm an art advisor. I started out with a company called Narcissus Arts back in 2010, June 2010. So my original business has just turned 15 years old. And then I set up a sister company called the Campbell Art Advisory in 2018, which I launched here in America in 21. And then in 2023, I set up something called the Campbell Art Collective. So I'm sort of wearing the original business I've sort of put to one side. It's more of just like a passion project. I've got an Instagram account, which is almost like a Pinterest board for emerging artworks that I find interesting. But I really wear two different hats for the advisory during the day and the collective as a kind of side project here in Austin.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up just outside London in a place called Kent, about an hour southeast of London.
And when did you arrive in Texas? How did you get to Texas?
I followed my wife. We were sort of traveling around. She's originally from Houston, but she was based in Los Angeles for about 18 years. And post-pandemic, we were both kind of quite free. And I wanted to move away from England. And so we weren't entirely sure where to move to. And she suggested that we come and pass through Austin, which we did, May 21. And we both completely fell in love with Austin and everything that it had to offer almost immediately. From a way of life point of view, and then I looked at it from a business point of view and thought there was a lot of potential here.
And your wife, Callie, just for anyone listening, is also a guest on the Artist Rendezvous. I'm not sure what order this will come out, so your episode might be first, or she might be, but go listen to it. Oh my
goodness, we're competitive. I have to be first.
And so tell me a little bit about what art advisory or collective is. And so for anyone listening who's not familiar with the art world, what are some of the actual tasks that you have done in the last month or 2 months?
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, it's, there are days when I say it out loud and it sounds quite ridiculous, but there are people like myself that are out there that are in a position to help people and companies build art collections, essentially. So that's what we do. So as I said, first business 15 years ago, I noticed a gap in the market where there was an increasing number of friends of mine coming to me and saying, "Hey, we really want to buy some decent artwork that means something to us, rather than potentially just having something decorative." But they didn't know where to go. They didn't have the time to do it. They were a bit dubious of the art world, and I'd always collected with a small budget, but albeit a budget. Since the age of 19, I bought an Andy Warhol was the first thing I ever bought.
Wow.
I know. But for like $1,800, it was nothing. It was like a little hidden away. Mm-hmm. But that kind of gave me the bug. And so therefore I was always on the lookout for things that was really interesting and exciting, and that was a kind of a bit of a steal. And so I got that bug. And so friends of mine knew that I had that bug. And so when they had the intent of trying to find something themselves, they came to me. And I realized that there were no advisories in the UK specifically in the UK, helping people with that younger budget, like smaller budget.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started exploring it, I realized that it wasn't limited just to kind of young people. There were people of all ages and all success levels, but not everyone wanted to spend a fortune on art. So I created the first advisory in the UK to specialize in under £10,000 then, which was kind of under $20,000 with the exchange rate. And so that kind of has sort of spurred out into the Campbell Art Advisory, which I do now. About 80% of my clients are private collectors. So I help them, some clients acquire 1 or 2 works a year and we build a collection off that. And some clients, like one here in Austin, will buy 50, 60 works a year. So it's a kind of across the gambit, really. And I, aside from that, I'll then do corporate and commercial. So I'll do some corporate clients around the world, and also commercial projects. So I'm hopefully doing a new hotel in San Antonio. I did the W Hotel in Rome, helped with the Mayborn in Beverly Hills, so on and so forth. So it's kind of like that kind of brings in an interesting, slightly different dynamic to the advisory role. And then the collective, which I mentioned, that's the business that I created here in Austin. And what that is ultimately is it's my way of helping shine a light on the local art scene here in Austin. So as I'm sure you know, the entire city is filled with imports. It's very rare to come across someone who's been in Austin for 10 years. They're kind of the unicorn. And so therefore it's a bunch of people that have moved from much bigger cities, LA or New York or East Coast, West Coast, wherever they are. And there was a small but growing number of people I was coming across who really were used to being involved in the local art scene in those cities, but after coming to Austin, generally for work reasons, we're keen to get involved with the local art scene here, but it's not obvious. It's not like New York where you can just go down to Chelsea and see all these galleries. Like, there's no nucleus to it here. But the more I was here, the more I was doing my day job as an advisor, seeing the artists in their studios, visiting the museums, getting to know the local collectors, the more I realized that there's a really good, interesting, burgeoning art scene here. It's just so spread out. You need to know where to look. And so, as I said, I kept on meeting this increasing number of people. And I thought, hey, someone needs to pull these people together and someone needs to show them. They need to be aware of this really cool artist on the east side that's doing something, or this amazing private collection on the west side. And so I took it upon myself. So I set up the Campbell Art Collective just over 2 years ago. And that's kind of the hat I wear, as I said, locally, help shine a light on the local scene here. And I'm excited to say I'm now launching that in Houston in September. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we're gonna come back to the Art Collective. I want to spend more time there. I want to start with Art Advisory. You said you had this bug about collecting it. So what then or now draws you to a piece of art where you say, like, this should go into someone's home or into someone's collection? This can't just stay here in this gallery or wherever it's currently housed.
Yeah, I think there are a multitude of reasons why one suddenly gets excited about a particular piece, a particular show. It's definitely it's different for every single client. I think from my point of view, when I'm looking personally, there are sort of 4 boxes that need to be ticked in order for me to suddenly be like, oh wow, okay, I think I need to have this. And they are, number one is aesthetics. Does it appeal to me as the buyer? Like, am I going to be happy living with this? You have to fall in love with it. You're going to look at it every day. So, does it look a certain way that I'm not going to tire of it, at least not in the too distant future. Sorry, not in the near future. Number 2, originality. What message is it saying? Is it saying a message that really resonates with me? What's the underlying thing? Is it politically? Is it historically? Like what there's always an underlying message. And so what is that? And how original is that message? The third point is kind of like the past and future. So where has the artist studied? How many exhibitions have they had, solo, group, locally, internationally? Equally, what have they got going forward? How many shows have they got? What have they got? Any artist residences? There we go. Mm-hmm. What awards are they up for? any sort of things that would give them more of a kind of presence in terms of their overall work. And then lastly, if what's the price? Does the price sort of match all of those previous boxes? And if it does, then it's something that I will want to have in my own collection. And they kind of follow those rules really for most of my clients going forward.
Do you find that people who come to you, do they already have this emotional connection with art? Or
some do.
Yeah.
Some do. Some are coming at it with the intent of trying to find works that kind of, they know the importance of finding work that represents things that are important to them.
Tell me more about that. Why is that important, to be surrounded by things?
Because it's a way that you can connect to the outside world in a bigger way, but within your own world. And so where the collections really come together in a really meaningful way is when they are little snippets that represent different things, whether it's nostalgic or whether it is political or, as I said, historical. The collectors that have the intent to collect these things and have them on the walls around them help kind of represent themselves in little ways.
I'm really glad we're talking about this, because this is really new to me. Like, I have been thinking about this recently. So when I've collected art before, it's pretty much exclusively connected to a significant event that I was in a really significant place, or it's a print of a really important, like really great art from a music show or something, or decorative function.
Yeah.
And maybe something cool, but it doesn't have the level of thought that you have. But I've been thinking about, with both clothing and things in my home, what if my material items made me feel more like me? Like, what if you could look at them and feel like they were an extension of my inner world? And in doing that and starting to make decisions like that, I feel myself more, and I feel more centered and directed in my life. Like, I feel less lost or untethered when the things around me feel like an extension of something that I value or find beautiful, and almost like a radio station. Like, I tuned it to my specific dial or frequency, which is new, but it kind of sounds like that's something maybe in different language that like other people have been doing with art.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, as I said, my first ever business was something called Narcissus Arts. And when people originally heard that, they sort of scoffed at the name, thinking back to kind of like a narcissistic personality or whatever. But actually, when it comes down to it, it's a really deep-rooted art historical reference. And where my original kind of inspiration came from was a painting by Caravaggio of Narcissus. And Narcissus is a Greek myth. And I won't go into the huge details, but basically there is a cast spell on this guy called Narcissus, and instead the father who cast the spell meant that he doesn't fall in love with his daughter, he falls in love with his own reflection. And so that's the story of Narcissus. And so there's this beautiful painting by Caravaggio of him looking at himself and his reflection. And really, the basis of why I wanted to call it Narcissus Arts is actually in truly in a positive way, no negative way. But collecting art is quite a narcissistic thing to do, because what you're actually doing is you're really looking at artworks and you're seeing a piece of yourself that really resonates back to you, and then you buy it and you put it on your wall and you look at it every day. And so every day you're seeing a slither of yourself being reflected back to you. That's cool. That's really interesting.
It's really interesting. Yeah. What do you think you get from getting to be surrounded by things that are reflective of you?
I think you're getting daily reminders of the richness of your life, right?
And of your internal world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whether it's for want of a better word, mementos of a trip that you went on, or a period of time where you're in love with someone else, potentially not the person you're still in love with, or whatever it is, they're almost just like markers for your travels through life. And they're little snippets, and you put them on the wall, and you get to admire them for whatever it is. Maybe you sold your business, and that's you bought various ones off the proceeds from that business. All of it comes together as this really nice reflection of who you are and what you've done.
Yeah.
And what if we bring it back to like the local scene, it's I try and encourage all my clients here and elsewhere, certainly within the small cities, to have a percentage of their collections that represent local artists, because not only do we have a I feel like certainly us that have moved here, do we have a responsibility to help the local art scene. But it's also really cool to look back and be like, hey, I was buying these guys because, I moved to Austin and they were like the young up and coming artists then, and now look at them, and that's a really neat thing to be able to do.
There's something, it ties, the artwork can be tied to the land and tied to the place and tied to the culture. And when you're in it, it feels obvious, but I have this print on my wall. I spent a semester in really small town in coastal North Carolina doing environmental studies work in college. And I bought this print of, it says to plant a tree is to cultivate an enduring legacy. And I just thought that's cool.
That's
and
cool.
Bought it and put it up in a little poster tube and then forgot about it basically for 10 years.
Right.
Held on to it, but never really had it. And then a few years ago, I was like, I should print this. And now I've had it for 15 years. And when I look at it, I remember that little pottery shop in this really vibrant part of this land that was in the middle of a nature refuge. And there's this little town that was an art community. And they would bring in students and teach them how to tell them about art. And then there was a bunch of people who just created art. And it ties me to that part of my life that I haven't been back and visited for 15 years, but I can feel it. I can feel the air and the soil, and I can feel it in a way that if I didn't have that, I think I would have forgotten by now.
Right.
Yeah. This is so cool. I'm enjoying this for me because for most of the art that I engage with and that I feel so passionate about is music, and it's an entirely different thing. It doesn't tie me to myself. It takes me out of myself, and it takes me into spirit, into this deep, deep feeling. And I guess it's in myself in some ways, but it's more about how much it moves me rather than how it orients me.
Yeah. I found myself speaking to this guy on the lake this weekend. He was a book collector, and we were floating past this amazing big sculpture. And he was like, I just don't get it. I don't really understand that. And I think like all these art forms, there are two different levels to them. And generally the second level is just not appreciated by the vast majority. So whether it's music or if it's a very well-known novel, and then in art there's the kind of there's the base level, there's the public facing level of it that people either will vibe with or they won't, but then there's the undercurrent, right? So it's let's take something like Animal Farm, for example, right? That's a beautiful book, and if you read it for what it is on the surface level, then it's just a really interesting little book. But actually, all the political history that's underlying in it is where it really becomes a weighty novel. Something like Gatsby is exactly the same, right? Or I'm bad with music, but we can just talk about, there are endless songs that on the surface sound amazing or really interesting to some, but actually the undercurrent of it is really deeply moving and political, and is talking about it's a commentary on what's happening culturally within the landscape, and same goes for art. A lot of it you can just be seeing. What we were passing by was a big red metal sculpture by Alexander Calder, and he was just it's a big metal Hulk, and I was like, yeah, but you don't know what the undercurrent is. It's, for what you see is just a big metal sculpture, and why does it cost tens of millions of dollars? Well, what one needs to do in order to really appreciate it is know what other sculptors what were they doing back then, and was he the first person to make sculpture of that size, and also what was really driving him to make that sculpture in such an abstract way. Well, it was a response to whatever was going on in the world. And that was his way of artistically expressing his feelings.
The context of why something's created can give so much more meaning to it.
Yeah.
But then the other part is the artistry of it. Like it's hard to, I'm taking an oil painting class. I'll actually go there after I finish here at Laguna Gloria. It's my first one. It's so cool. I love it. But you do the tiniest amount of something, and then that can give you just a much greater appreciation for how challenging it is. I took a ceramics class last summer, and now every time I see a cup that's taller, I realize how hard that is. Like, I can't believe someone made that. And you have this greater appreciation. So sometimes it's the context as well as knowing what has to happen for somebody to create something like that that can change your understanding.
Completely. And I think I mean, all like at a little level, we can all relate to it, right? I mean, I try to do guitar lessons, and I know how freaking hard that like as a musical instrument. But then we just watched The Complete Unknown about Bob Dylan on the weekend, and you're just like, how is he so musically talented, but also can like convey whatever else is going on in the world in such a incredibly original and lyrical way. Yeah. And then all the way down to like some of us did pottery at school, and like you can understand the trouble and intricacies of trying to throw a clay pot, but doing it in a way that, I don't know, the Japanese can do it, which is just so insanely delicate and whatever. You're just like, that's where, right, in order to fully appreciate this, you kind of need to try it yourself.
When you are through, as in your career of art advising, has that role led you to learn more about the different mediums?
Oh yeah, God, yeah.
Did you know when you started that would be part of your?
I assumed it was going to be. Yeah, in order for me to be good at advising, I need to understand the different mediums.
So going back 15 years, you have this bug, you're interested, and you see a need. Yeah. Great combo. Yeah. And I just want to flag that for anybody, because this comes up in a lot of interviews where most people who are doing something that's creative in nature aren't doing it because they think this is the most strategic, practical thing to do. No. They're doing it because it doesn't exist yet, or they really want to, and they have a bug. And usually it's at least the bug, and then sometimes it's also there's a need for it. Yeah. So you have those things. Did you have a formal education in art history?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go to a boarding school, which had the most incredible art history teacher. So unlike most schools, we were able to start it from 16 to 18. And that really gave me the bug. I remember walking into it. I liked art, but like I walked into a studio a classroom, and there was a American ABX artists on the wall, Rothko and Pollock. And Mark Rothko, I ended up doing my dissertation on, and I got married at the Rothko Chapel in Houston. So like that, that was the arc from 17 years old, probably when I walked into that classroom and first came across his work, through to being married in the Rothko Chapel 3 years ago.
How special!
So it was really special. But I forgot the question.
So your education in it. So the
education. And then I went to university and did 3 years of university doing art history and arts management as well.
Did that give you the confidence when people are like, I need help collecting art, to be like, yeah, trust me?
I mean, it gave me a little bit of confidence, but ultimately I was fresh out the gates and didn't, my knowledge was very little, but I knew that niche, that under £10,000 niche, wasn't necessarily anyone else's main focus. And so that became my main focus. And once I did it I set it up, and then I did it on the side for 5 years, at which point I thought, okay, now I think I've got a business here. And I think I've got enough of knowledge to go out and with confidence say, this is the niche that actually I'm really, really good at.
And you know it, and you know the market, and you're educated in it. What were you doing for the other work?
So I worked for an advisor for a time. I worked for an auction house for a bit. Worked at a couple of galleries.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I saved up a grand total of £7,000, and I was living at my parents' house, and I was eating hummus and bread basically all day for 6 months. I gave myself 6 months. I felt that was enough of a runway, and didn't have much of a life. And I thought, well, if it all disappears, then no one's going to not give me a job off the back of it. But yeah, touch wood, I haven't worked for someone else since.
So do you remember any of the obstacles or challenges that you had at that time?
I mean, all of them.
Tell me some, what were some of the big ones?
Cash flow, not having any structure, not knowing how to run a business.
And yeah.
All the obvious ones. I was 26 years old. Ultimately, I think you always think that you know enough. In hindsight, did I know enough? Probably not.
So there's someone listening here who's 26 or 46, and they're like, okay, I want to start this business. I know some things about it, I've been working in this for a while. I'm excited and I think it, but there's so much I don't know and I'm really scared. Why should they do it anyway? Or why might they do it anyway?
Oh, because life's too short. And once you know what it feels like to be your own boss, then it's extremely hard to, I think, try and go backwards.
Okay, so tell me about this freedom that you got from.
Well, I think I need to be very honest and caveat it with the fact that I was 26 and I was single. I was single and living in my parents' house. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a mortgage to worry about. And so my reality was extremely different to everybody else's. But I feel like, I just came from a meeting with someone who's about to leave their job and do their own thing. And he's married with 2 kids and
scary.
Scary.
Brave.
But I feel like it's, I don't know. I've always been a big believer. You only live once, and you got to take the jump. And ultimately, I don't feel like, certainly from my point of view, there was very little to lose. That's the most important thing, and I need to be humble and honest about that. But also, which employer is going to be like, I'm not going to hire you because you set out on your own and it didn't work out. Everyone's going to applaud that.
Yeah. And that's important to remember, because when I quit I was a full-time lawyer, and I quit that without really a plan to go pursue something that I liked.
Ballsy.
Not really knowing what it was. And ended up having 2 businesses in the healing art space. But I felt like I also remember having those thoughts. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have any kids. There's no huge consequence to this. But it still felt like I had a lot to lose.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was it wasn't the practical parts of it. I wasn't caregiving, anything like that. But there's an emotional piece that it's like, but what if I fail?
Yeah.
And what if it doesn't? What if it sets me back? Or what if I'm not, I'm trying to remember the things that I was actually afraid of. I remember writing it down and trying to write down everything that I was actually afraid of, worst case scenario, and then being like, could I still handle it?
Yeah.
And
Good for you.
And the answer was yes, but it feels bigger at the time. It can be easier once it works out to be like, it wasn't that big. There are so many people make risks that are bigger. Did it feel like it was an easy risk to make at that age?
Oh, good question. Yes, I think it probably did. I think I was very aware of my age and my fortunate circumstances, and that it was a kind of, what if? So what? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And obviously that changes a huge amount. But I think you're so right. Just putting pen to paper, number one, and number two, as we all know, things that we worry about in life seem much grander and greater than they actually are when it comes to it. So,
yeah,
I would, regardless of everybody's situation, if someone is listening to this in 5 years' time, at whatever age and stage, I would say, just go for it. If you feel like you've got the passion and interest to really follow it and to work. This is the other thing. They have got to be aware that you've got to work every night and every weekend for 6 months, a year, whatever it is, in order to get it off the ground. So as long as you've got the interest and the passion to do that and the tenacity and be happy to put in 18-hour days, then go for it. But not everyone is. No.
And so why was it, when did it did it become clear to you that this could work? And in the sense that it would be fulfilling and you could make a living off of it, both of those things.
Probably after that first year. So that would be the 5th year. So the first year I took it solo. So 5th going into 6th year, where it sort of allowed me I surpassed my targets, which therefore meant that it was a proven business. Yeah.
Yeah. And what now or then has it given you to have your living based in something that is creative and artistic in nature?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's pretty crucial that I.
Why?
I think because I'm someone that thrives from that being around creatives and the creative industry, full stop. So a big part of my job, for example, is traveling. Like there are art fairs and auctions and gallery shows around the world constantly, and so it's a huge part of my job in order to jump on an airplane and go and see what's being created and by whom. And so yeah,
Okay, let me see if I have this right. This is incorrect me. Is a big part of your job going to go learn about cool art, figure out who's making it, where it is, how it's done, understand the context of it, and then develop your network so then you can match people with art that would be meaningful
Correct.
to them?
That's exactly it.
What a cool job.
It's a cool job. When it works, it's a really cool job.
Yeah. What's frustrating about it now, currently?
Well, I guess it's like anything in the kind of the luxury business is that you're at the whims of very rich people and whether they're having a nice day or not. It's kind of dependent on that.
Why is it important for anybody, wealthy, not wealthy, to be surrounded by beautiful, meaningful items?
I just think I think going back to our point a bit ago, I think it's such a nice reminder of how rich and filled their life had been along the way, and so.
So with the art collective, let's go into that a little bit. So is that for people who are, for the most part, buying art?
No. So I would say that that's just for people who are really interested in the art world as a whole.
Yeah.
I would say that a percentage of my members are collectors or wanting to become collectors, but for the most part, it's just people that are really interested in art.
So if they're curious about art, they know they like it, or they're just like, I don't know that much about the art world, but I'd like to learn more.
Yeah, exactly.
They're welcome there.
Yeah.
What does an event look like?
So, for example, I got an event this coming Thursday with a local gallery called McLennan Pen. Jill got here a little after me, so probably 2.5 years ago. She came from New York. She came from a very big gallery in New York, and she decided, like myself, that Austin was a cool place to live and it was a newer market. And so she set up a gallery out of her home on the east side and kind of built a very interesting avant-garde program out of there. And has got to a point where she's decided to set up a bricks and mortar, which opened about 3 weeks ago on West 5th. And so I'm taking my group to go and see her and celebrate the space. And she's got a group show of 10 artists that she's now representing. So it's like a good old launching of the space. And it's I'd be very pleased and proud if I was her.
Can you tell me what that means about an avant-garde program, or what she's doing?
Yeah, she's just kind of not gone around doing exhibitions in the usual sense. So she did an exhibition with Yoko Ono's pieces, for example.
So is she an artist, or is she?
No, she's a gallerist.
Okay.
She has an art gallery.
And so her role then is gathering other artists within like a genre?
Yeah. So again, sort of really whatever interests her, which artists interest her, and so she puts together a group of shows. So it's whether it's Yoko Ono all the way through to someone who's just graduating from UT. So whoever she sees as interesting and exciting and has got talent, then she puts an exhibition on for them. So my event will be on Thursday night, and we tend to do something in the morning for people who've got kids and they can't do the evenings. So we do 2 sessions, one in the morning and then one in the evening, and I'll sit down like this, much abbreviated version of this, and sort of ask a bunch of questions that will allow the members to better know the hosts, like the gallerists, like Jill, and also the artists that are on show and the stories that they're telling and the program as a whole. So we'll be doing drinks there, and from 6 till 8, it's kind of the program.
I think a lot of people get intimidated going to art. I personally get very intimidated going to a gallery. I don't really know what goes on in there. I've been in some, but I get nervous.
Sure.
What do you encounter that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been my MO from the beginning. It's just to try and break down those barriers and be like, it's not the scary place that it should be. That it is not the scary place that people seem to think it is. And it's fine to ask for prices, and it's fine if you don't understand what the pieces mean.
Yeah.
It's all part of it. It's whatever. It's not for everybody.
But you can have a conversation about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's okay if you don't know what this is.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a big. Once I started working through that, it got more fun for me to go look at art of like, I don't have to know what this means.
Yep.
Like off the bat.
Yeah, quite right.
You know,
and still, even if you're asking about it and it still doesn't really make much sense to you, then that's fine in itself. Yeah. Like that's just an art that's not for you. You can't relate to it. That's fine.
What has it been like to create something that's based in community versus
huge?
Yeah,
I've loved that. Yeah. Loved that. I mean, my only point of reference was London, and London's London, but being here, it's allowed me to really get involved in the local community and add to it. Like, it was already a really established local scene here in Austin, but it's been really fulfilling from my point of view, because actually I pulled together the majority of my members had not been attached to any of the museums in a kind of patron program before, nor had they been patrons of the galleries or artists. They hadn't really bought from those galleries or artists before. And so, I would say the vast majority of my members are new to it, and they have subsequently been through the doors of museums and bought artists and from these different galleries that they weren't aware of. And so therefore I've helped in a small way just to kind of build out that art community here. And that's been really rewarding. What's
the difference between going from like culturally, or however you want to answer this question, between going to a museum to see art and going to a gallery?
Good question. I mean, ultimately, when you're going to a gallery, more often than not, you've got the opportunity to buy the work that is on show, as opposed to when you go to a museum, nothing's generally for sale. So that's the kind of the different kind of experience you might get from it. Okay.
Have you felt that people in Austin, let me think about this question. So I guess I want to say from the outset, I didn't know Austin until I met you, until I met your wife. I didn't know Austin had a thriving art scene.
Right.
Yeah. And so do you find that a lot? Like, do you feel that people know about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how can communities, whether someone's listening to this in Austin or whether they're in another city, like learn, or how do you get plugged into an art scene?
I think, it's going back to the point that you were just asking about in terms of like being intimidated about going into a gallery. Don't be intimidated, and do go in and say, introduce yourselves and say that you're really wanting to learn more about the scene. And I guarantee everyone is going to be much more forthcoming than you would expect. And so same goes with the museums. The museums are, they are there in order to educate people. And so if you're going to go in with eagerness and say, I'd love to learn more, I'd love to get involved with the local scene, then they'll point you in the right directions.
I think there can be this misconception that art is for a very specific type of person or a specific type of background.
Yep.
And the more I engage with art, the more I learn that often art is made from somebody who was inspired by something or wants to express themselves or create or play. and then hope that it can be viewed with curiosity or appreciation. And it's just that. It doesn't have to mean any sort of exclusivity. It can just be something that you go engage with. But I don't know if it's a US thing or if it happens in other places, but I do think that that's something a lot of people hold, that like going to see fancy art isn't for me.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean that's it's a very valid response that I get from a lot of people. It's it's not really for me. It's not. I would then challenge them and say, go and like spend a morning in the museum with a curator and have a guided tour, and then you'll have a sense of just more meaning behind things. And then I would hope that people would start to get a little bit more.
And I think that's too what you were saying earlier about when you were on Lake Austin and there was that red sculpture of maybe you need to learn the context to come in. Maybe you need to learn more about the artistry. Or there's something here. So whatever you're interested, whether it's intricacy or history or aesthetic, but going and coming at it with different angles, because art can offer a lot. So let's talk about that. So I know that you are involved in a few different capacities of bringing art into public spaces or attempting to here in Austin. So yes, having art in your home, we've covered that, but why is it valuable for just the general public to have access to art?
What I'm involved with here is the Arts and Culture Committee on the Trail Foundation. So Trail Conservancy, the trail that goes around Town Lake, 10 miles of trail. And I'm part of a committee that is trying to bring more public art to that trail. And what that looks like is twofold. Number one, it's art by local artists. And further on down the line, probably in about 3 years, it will be a percentage of it will be art by artists from outside of Austin, probably outside of Texas, maybe international artists. And what will visitors therefore get? They'll get a better understanding from the local artists, what the local scene is actually about, what stories people are telling, what communities people are trying to represent. There are 8 different sites currently at the moment. We're just going into the second round, but all of those 8 are all by local artists, and they're all coming from different communities, the different sides of Austin, and so therefore they're trying to represent their communities in a certain way and tell a different story. And I think for some people, as you said, like a lot of people they get intimidated by this, or they're not necessarily that interested in going to a museum or a gallery. But if you don't have the interest to go to a museum or gallery, then you don't have any other opportunity to interact with art, and therefore not have this opportunity to kind of learn about what's happening in your local city and art scene. And similarly for the kind of the bigger, more international artists that we're going to be getting, what else is out there, And again, like if you're not wanting to go to places like New York or San Francisco or somewhere in Europe in order to try and experience art, then hopefully through the Arts and Culture Committee, we can kind of bring pieces to you, to the larger public here, and hopefully bring more awareness and more interest to the arts.
Being someone who has watched a lot of people look at art, what do you notice happens after people spend time engaging with art, looking at art? Do you notice anything?
I mean, everyone's different. So some people will just kind of look at it for 2 seconds and then move on. Other people will be really engaged with it. Certainly when it comes down to like public art, the best is the ones that you can kind of really, like in my opinion, a playful, interactive, and then you see all ages getting involved, which is really neat. It's not just sort of pigeonholed just for adults, for example.
That's what I like the idea of public art so much, is one, meeting more people, because connecting with creativity is how you know yourself, to the point of like seeing art and you learn about yourself. I think it's how we express ourselves in the world. I think it's deeply fulfilling. And I think it's also the human way. And I think it's a big way that people learn how to share their emotions and what they feel. So I think it's really important, and it's also beauty and it's culture and it's historical context, and it's just it's a massive form of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody doesn't like going to a museum or doesn't feel comfortable in there, and especially kids, like museums aren't as friendly for kids. Like, even though, they'll be open to it, they are kind of quiet spaces that you're not supposed to touch anything.
Yep.
And so for a 5-year-old, my niece, who's 4, went to the Harvard Museum of Art with my mom. She always takes her there in Boston. And she was very interested in the scavenger hunt, because if she finished the scavenger hunt, then she got ice cream.
Nice.
And like, that's what she wants to do with art. Like, she doesn't have that capacity to look at it, but she likes to play. And she went to this really cool playground in Portland where it's like this big, almost art exhibit, but it was a playground at the same time. I don't know what it was called. You get to engage in these really creative ways. And I think it helps people have a new perception and idea. And I also really like it because if you're a kid who no one's taking you to the museum, or you go once, you get in trouble for talking too loud, and you don't go again until you're 30, you might not know.
Right.
And then you see this art, and that could be the thing that sparks you.
Yeah.
I also love street art for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's our way to fill our world with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you're working on a new project?
I'm working on a new project.
Okay, what's it called? Can you share the name?
Yeah, I think so at the moment. It's called Bite. Be in the experience. And so it's a
love that name.
Thank you. Yeah. We played around with it a bit. So I'm teamed up with a company called Tivity, who are very large. It's essentially like a form of catering business here based in Austin. But they have all the kind of the top chefs in Austin on their books. And so it seems, I feel like, again, I've seen a little bit of a gap here where it's very immersive dining experiences. So these sort of typically be called like a gallery dinner. They don't really happen here in Austin. And what that consists of is, simply traditionally, a gallery is doing a new show and an artist is there is present, and so they'll do a dinner around the celebration of the opening of that show. Now, for some reason, multiple reasons, that doesn't really happen here in Austin. But I think what I've proven through the collective and more is that there is this like real hunger for people to kind of be part of a larger cultural happening, certainly here within Austin. And so Emmy, who is the co-founder of Tivity, and I are friends. She's also a member of the collective. Came together, and we were really wanted to do these dinners here in Austin, but we came across 2 hurdles we couldn't get over. Number 1, what was the location? Because neither of us have a gallery. And number 2, who's paying for it? Mm-hmm. And so we couldn't really get over those hurdles for about a year. And then my wife overheard me on a conversation, and she suggested that we should be looking at this in a different way, and in a way that is kind of reflective of the world, certainly here in America and probably back home as well, is people are really hungry for experiences. And maybe one could argue like, it's a sort of dying group industry, perhaps like the industry that I'm used to, like traveling to art fairs and stuff, or people are not traveling to art fairs as much, and they want to kind of do things more in their hometown and support locally. And so all of a sudden we were like, well, hang on a second, if we can allow people to interact with local artists and creatives, we don't want to limit this just to artists. We want this to be open to musicians and film directors and whatever it might be, anything cultural that would allow a set number of people to kind of get involved with them and learn what makes them tick a little better. Then that's what we should do. And so what my wife suggested was to paraphrase what happens when you shake the head of an artist, a creative, like what dinner falls out. And all of a sudden you put the onus on them and you say, right, where do you get your inspiration from? Is it your studio? Is it your back garden? Is it a field in the hill country? Who knows? And so all of a sudden you've got the location sorted. But then you say, right, it's all the way down to you. So what's the musical component? What's the food? Is it your favorite food? Or is it food that represents the work that you do? is there, the tablescaping, like everything down to the napkins. They have to design, and it's
oh my God, so cool.
And it's like it's hopefully not a burden to them because they're just like their creative juices can just flow. And then with Tivity, they have all these amazing chefs. So once we can tie the creative to the top chef, then we have this kind of really interesting experience, which will appeal not to people just who are interested in kind of visual arts or culture, but also to the food people. And so we think we got a business there. It's not only just locally, but also further afield, nationwide. So we're in discussions with artists in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and hopefully we got our first 3 lined up here in Texas.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for me because I feel like you took something in my head and pulled it out of something that I wanted to go to. And I am excited that you're giving these creatives license. And it sounds like kind of collaborative, like like think of this thing, where is this? Like almost these questions and prompts. And then within that, what can you create?
Yeah, definitely.
And again, that then creation, it'll be cool to see how they vary over time and how what they created reflects who they are as a person and as a creative.
Yeah. And I certainly, like, it really excites me here locally because it's also like a vehicle in which to help just not only just like the artists themselves, but as I said, like there's a musical component. So I'm in discussions with UT music department in order to have a student or two come from there, and like we give them an evening that they're allowed to play in front of 30 people that in a kind of domestic setting that they wouldn't have otherwise had that opportunity. So it kind of gives them experience. Equally, like a kind of, as much as possible, we don't want to dilute the actual evening, but as much as possible, we'll have local brands be represented there. So if there's like a vodka cocktail, then it will be a local Texan, Austin-based vodka that will be involved. So just I feel like it's multifaceted and could just be fun and help shine a light on things larger than just what I've been doing in the collective.
You seem super excited.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah. So what has been creating this been like for you?
Well, it's interesting because I'm doing it with my wife and these 2 partners. So we're kind of doing it as a collaborative effort. There are 4 of us, and then with obviously the artists that are involved. We are, in order to do it at the highest standard that we can do it, we have to speak to sponsorship, which I've never had outside investors. I've never had to do an event where I need sponsorship. So it's kind of opening up other conversations that I've never had to have before. And other things that I need to be thinking about. But yeah, it's coming at it with its unique challenges, which I've never experienced before.
You seem like a bit of a serial entrepreneur.
I never use that word. I don't know why I have a problem with it, but
no worries.
It's I think someone asked me I was catching up with a friend back in the UK, and they said, you just really like setting up businesses. And the way I can summarize it is that I think I do. I think I get a kick out of noticing a gap and going for it. And not all that I've done it before, and it hasn't. Sometimes it's failed, but it's definitely it gives me some drive.
Well, you've mentioned that probably 4 or 5 times, this ability to see a gap. And so it seems like there's something about that specifically of seeing something and then filling it that you really like doing. Yeah. So where do you, to kind of ask the question that you're going to ask these artists, where do you get your inspiration from?
Good question. Where do I get my inspiration from? I think I thrive on always being on the move, always like chasing the next thing. And so I hate sitting still, and I hate not having something new to focus on.
The newness, why do you think, like, what do you think is about that is so enlivening for you?
I don't know, I guess the unknown nature of the newness is what kind of gives me the drive. Yeah.
It's kind of like an adventure.
Yeah.
There's an adventure part of it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Whether it's literally physically going on an adventure and the kind of being always on the move, or if it's just the adventure of just trying something new and think it like if it's just an idea that I've thought through.
All of your businesses are innately about connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to do that. Was that something intentional, or was that just happen to be a part of the?
No, I think that just happens to be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of that would be intentional. Hey, I'd love an idea of like setting up some tech thing and I don't have to deal with people and whatever. Like that would excite me as well. But
okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, no, it just happens that all of the things that I have set up are very kind of personal and yeah.
There's something that I noticed. I talked with your wife, Kelly, about this, that I noticed in both of you, and I really do think it's unusual, is that you both have this tendency to scan around, see something that doesn't exist, and then just decide, yeah, we should create it. Like, we should just do that.
That's the Sagittarians in us. We're both Sag. And so yeah, I don't know what that is.
Well, that's the adventure and the learning too, and that creation. Was that something that was always, I really like that quality, and it's something I like to speak to the audience about this too, because I think a lot of people get scared about that. They see something and it doesn't even occur to them maybe of like, oh, I should create that. Or it just feels like far, like that. How would I even go about do that? Was that something you're always?
Sam, I think that plays into taking that leap right at the beginning. Mm-hmm. You know, after you've done that and after you've worked out that did actually work, then you're a lot less worried about doing it again and again. But unless you've taken that big leap, then it's always going to be really scary. Whatever idea that you suddenly see and you think, goodness, I should probably go for that, but I don't want to leave my paycheck or whatever it is.
Yeah. The vision gets bigger, I think, with each leap.
Yeah.
Like what you then are like, oh, I could do that because you are proving to yourself and collecting evidence of your capabilities.
It's interesting now I'm talking about it. I think why I have an aversion with the word entrepreneur is that I see people who I think are entrepreneurs and they have multiple businesses across multiple fields. I just seem to have multiple businesses within one field. And I wouldn't argue that I would argue that that's, I don't, at least in my opinion, don't see myself as an entrepreneur in that. Mm-hmm. But I think true entrepreneurs have the ability to see the gap in completely different fields and go for them and make successes of them. That's what I strive to do for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I do think this bite, it does feel like a little bit different than the other projects.
I think where there are already different directions that have started to appear that I hadn't thought about 3 months ago when I had really had the idea and started going for it. So, and they would lead me away from the art world in a little bit. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. It's worth exploring, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It sounds like it, because if you love the newness of it, then going into uncharted territory would probably be really fun.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to say or close with about any of your work before I ask you final questions?
No.
Where can people, we'll put it in the show notes, but if someone was interested who lives in Austin or Houston in joining the Art Collective, where could they find that?
www.campbellartcollective.com.
Great.
And then you'll see there's an Austin tab and a Houston tab, and then you can look at previous events or upcoming events on both.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that'll be in the show notes. So my final 2 questions for you are, what do you give to Austin? What are you creating for Austin? Or offering?
I would like to think that I'm giving more of a I'm allowing more of an audience to the local art scene. I'm adding to the already exciting, burgeoning art scene that existed here already, but introducing a newer audience to it.
And what do you think Austin is giving you?
The incredible room and support to follow these little ideas that I have and help expand them. Yeah, it's a great, great city for that.
is a great city for that. This is a supportive place for little like glimmers and sparks.
That would be my takeaway advice. If anyone's got an inkling to have a go at it and start their own thing, come to Austin, because everybody will want to help if they can.
Yeah. And if you aren't in Austin, be that sort of person for someone else. Be somebody, if someone tells you their idea, support them, encourage them, see how you could help.
Yeah, I always have that coffee with someone. That's what I would say. Like sometimes it will just be 5 minutes of your day, but always, if you can, have that conversation. And if you can in person, have that coffee with someone who's certainly just trying to start out, do their own thing, ask for some advice. You've got to give it, because that's the way that the world goes around.
Absolutely. Nick, thank you so much for your time and for joining. This was so fun. Appreciate it.